Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our daily get-together here live on Facebook, 10:30 in the morning, every single day of the week, where we gather news, headlines, stories, tips, suggestions, comments, and ideas to have an awesome life here in Puerto Vallarta as an English-speaking community. It is always a pleasure to welcome familiar faces, but if you're new to these broadcasts, my name is Paco, and we would love to give you a proper welcome. You can help us out by writing the word new in your comments. And also, if you have specific questions that you would like to share or you would like to have us comment on, add the letter Q at the beginning of your question, and we'll try to get to it during the broadcast. And if not, we'll try to get to it shortly thereafter. Lisa thinks I look dashing in red. Thank you very much. It's, sometimes the colors don't translate well. It's maroon. I love maroon. For all the years that I worked in a university in Cambridge in the United States. That was a long time ago. Good Lord. Anyhow, there's a lot of you here. It's always great to see you. Thomas is back in town, apparently, because Thomas is in Villas del Puerto. It's great to see you. It's great to see Lisa from Illinois. It's great to see all of you. And it's great to start another week with news and headlines. And of course, today is, Michael, you're back in your house after the wildfires. I hope things are okay for you. And as always, I hope things are okay for all our friends that are in the areas in the United States that have been damaged by the wildfires. Lots of news today. Lots of news. Let's see. James Binder is new. Welcome, James. This is Coffee and Headlines. Today is Monday, so we actually have coffee and headlines and some stories and some fun stuff. Karen asks, did I work at Harvard? Yes, I did for many, many years. And again, that was another episode of life. Anyhow, we have all kinds of... Oh, this is nice. This is nice. Brian, who watches us on YouTube, where you don't get the experience of back and forth like we're enjoying now, is finally watching live. And it is nice to see that you're joining us, Brian. It's slightly different. In YouTube, you just don't get the interaction. But I also appreciate that not everybody is on Facebook, or maybe the schedule is more convenient such that you prefer to watch it on YouTube. Either way, it helps us a lot if you like the broadcast, if you like the channel, if you like the Facebook page, so that you can find out exactly when new information is coming. My dear, dear, dear friend from a million years ago, well, only a few, Earl, is watching from Provincetown. It's always good to see you, baby. Great to see all these friends. But back to the news. We have all kinds of things to cover because It is Monday. We always look at the COVID numbers that are delivered by our governor every Sunday. We're going to look at that today. We're going to deliver some very bad news for people that have been waiting for the new highway from Puerto Vallarta to Guadalajara to be completed. And we're also going to look at another period of shady Mexican history. Yesterday was a national holiday, the Niños Héroes Day, which commemorates the six martyr children that defended Chapultepec Castle during a war with the United States. We're going to dive into this and see what really went on there. Kathleen says my husband is happy. Okay. Well, I want to know what you guys did last night. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Anyhow, let's dive into the news. But very quickly, let me tackle this. Are the high-end restaurants reopened? Are they outside or inside? Thinking of returning in October. It would be so easy to crank a joke on that one, John. It's so easy, and I am. Only the low-end restaurants have opened. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. The vast majority of important restaurants in town are open. They are operating with the guidelines that have been instituted by our government. There are restaurants that only have indoor sitting. There are restaurants that have indoor and outdoor sitting, and it's been a personal choice as to whether people are catering to these restaurants right now or not. So when you come into town in October, it'll be your choice to cater to these restaurants or not. Okay, with that said, let's dive into the news. As in every Monday, we begin with the words of our governor, Enrique Alfaro, regarding the latest numbers for COVID-19, and his words are essentially the same words as last week. We're getting better step by step. The hospital occupation lowered. We continue to be the fourth state with the lowest number of accumulated cases, as we'll see in the charts in a second. The 15th state with active cases, and the 6th state with best morbidity rate. And it's a matter of continuing to take care of ourselves and following the guidelines. So the message is becoming, well, not monotonous, but again, we know what we have to do and we know how to get it done. If we look at a comparison between this week and the week before, yes, the hospital occupation went down from 708 beds to 642, which is good. And the number of active cases just dropped ever so slightly from 316.9 to 315.9. So the difference is very subtle. But when you consider the amount of activity that is now taking place around the city, I think it's pretty remarkable that the number of cases continues to drop, because we have seen an impressive increase of activity throughout the city, particularly when it comes to restaurants and nightlife. Here is a chart for accumulated cases. As I mentioned before, we are all the way down here with 273 accumulated cases for every 100,000 inhabitants. The numbers continue to be highest for Mexico City. When it comes to actual cases that are being monitored right now by the government, Jalisco is all the way here in the middle, still under the national average. Baja California Sur, which is where Cabo is still very, very high. They have a surprisingly high number of active cases right now. And our numbers for morbidity continue to be on the low end of things. So are we pushing any emergency buttons? Is anything crazy happening? I don't think so. And we continue to be on a week-by-week basis, but things seem to be getting better slowly and steadily. For the first time, Mexico does not show a single state in the red as far as the national epidemiology chart is concerned. Many states are in the orange, And a few states are in the yellow. I read elsewhere that Jalisco, our state, is getting closer to being in the yellow, but not quite yet. Again, we know that these numbers, or these colors rather, represent specific activities that can take place or cannot take place, but we're also reminded of the fact that our state, the state of Jalisco, has been dancing to its own tune according to the guidelines established by our governor. That said, it is interesting to see, for example, that in the state of Acapulco, where bars and discos and nightlife had been restarted, they decided that starting today, they're going to close down nightlife again because there was an increase in cases, and it was attributed to the opening of nightlife in that particular state. AstraZeneca reports that they are resuming their trials for the anti-coronavirus vaccine. We knew last week that they were paused because one of the volunteers in the trials suffered an adverse reaction. But it's good to see that they figured out what they need to do, I hope, and they are continuing to resume the trials. Let me take a quick dip into your comments. So let's see. Oh, okay. There you go. Kathleen, Seahawks, sports bars. It's out of my territory, but I'm happier. I'm happy your husband is happy. Let's see. Great news. My husband and I will be in Bucerias. That's wonderful. La Capella, Iguana, and Maximilian, they're all open. Again, business is back. People are moving about, and more the decisions of being inside or outside, the decisions of being a part of society or not, are extremely personal, and the responsibility is extremely personal. Going back to the news, it is estimated that 100,000 people used the new rapid train. I've been calling it a subway because I thought that most of the stops were underground, but it is actually, and more accurately, a rapid train. This is line 3 that was launched in the city of Guadalajara this weekend, and that was really, really good news because the new subway connects the entire city, and it connects some municipalities, important municipalities, and you can travel it in less than half an hour. I have a video here that I'm going to play hesitantly because I certainly don't want Facebook or YouTube to shut me down. I hope this video, which was produced by the government of Jalisco, is using music that is copyright free. It is 60 seconds long. Take a look. I actually like the music. And anyhow, of course, we know that President Lopez Obrador was in the city of Jalisco for the ceremony that kicked this new service, this transportation service. And he said in a statement that despite the notorious differences between Governor Enrique Alfaro and myself, we are working together because we are a democracy, he said, and it is part of democracy, as I've always said the president, that there have to be different opinions, and these different opinions should not surprise you, and actually this should be a sign that we are not a dictatorship. Only in dictatorships do you have silence. In another statement, the governor of Jalisco published a video in which he was standing inside of the subway being very happy that he had a private conversation with the president of Mexico, and he is happy to announce that good things are happening in the near future or the distant future. The relationship between the federal government and our state is a good one, which is good. Moving on with the headlines, that was Saturday. On Sunday, yesterday, while we were enjoying Sunday Fun Day, Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, was in Mexico City to commemorate the Niños Héroes, the martyr children that defended Chapultepec Castle from the gringos. And I don't mean gringo in an offensive way. I just mean it from the Americans. Anyhow, this happened yesterday in Mexico City. And before we end our broadcast today, I'm going to go back into this episode of our history and show you the shade of it all, because it's really a shady situation. All kinds of interesting things going on with that one. And I have bad news for anybody that has been waiting for or wondering about the new highway that connects Guadalajara to Puerto Vallarta, and the highway shows irregularities. Landslides, anyone? This photograph was posted by Vallarta Opina, and unfortunately, it also includes a statement made by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador that says he promised the highway before 2024, when his presidential term is over. So if you were to ask me, when is the new highway going to be ready? Is it going to be ready in a matter of months? Is it going to be ready in a matter of years? Is it going to be ready in 2024? Who knows? It's one of those things. You can start placing your bets, but in light of the pandemic, I don't know that I would necessarily applaud or welcome hordes of tourists coming in from Guadalajara or any place else. But it is a little bit frustrating that we've been hearing about this highway forever, and only God knows when it's going to be completed. Let me take a quick look at your comments before we dive into the weather and the leisurely stuff, because, oh, this is good to know. Sharon was in Guadalajara this weekend. Everybody was wearing masks. I bet this train is really safe from a health perspective too. Well, I think public transportation in general has issues, and I'm sure that in Guadalajara and anywhere in the world there are rush hour times in which there might be more people on the train or not. So it's just a matter of checking it out. If it feels safe, it's probably a good thing to do. I am actually very much looking forward to going to Guadalajara and checking out the new train, because it actually connects some neighborhoods that I like to explore. And of course, it's going to be less expensive to do so. Catherine reminds us that Restaurant Week starts tomorrow. And Sharon asks me about a message from yesterday. Yesterday, Sharon, I turned social media off. But you bought me a Mexican mask. That is great. I would love to get it, because I have not been shopping for one, but I would love to get it. Let me know. I will send you a private message to see how I can connect with you. For those of us who work still, can we watch your feed after hours? Asks Linda. You can watch the feed anytime. The feed for Coffee and Headlines gets repurposed here on Facebook Live. It gets repurposed on YouTube, and it gets repurposed along with the show notes on the website paco-ojeda.com, where you can check out all the show notes from each episode. If there's any particular topic that you're interested in finding out more information about, you can always do that. Yes, many of the links are in Spanish, and you're going to wonder, why am I including links in Spanish? Well, just because I want to make sure that you know and appreciate that the sources of information that I share with you have a certain amount of legitimacy. We are very concerned here at Coffee and Headlines to make sure that whatever information we share is as accurate as possible. Every now and then I make some mistakes or I need to be corrected on things and that, and I welcome those corrections gladly, because sometimes it's difficult to get the news right. In Mexico, are Canadians considered gringos? Definitely not. Oh no, we have a very clear understanding on who the gringos are. And again, it's a word that I use very hesitantly because I would never want to offend anybody with it. And some people might get ruffled with the word. And some people might not take offense with it. Michael published a huge link. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to take a look at that. Um, how do you know I have a crystal ball, Kelly? I'm not even going to go there. Oh, excuse me. I should have muted that. I'm very sorry. Um, Anyhow, going on with the rest of the broadcast, let's move into our weather. Oh, that's lovely. Carrot Weather says that cloud looks like you getting your leg torn off by a poodle. I love Carrot Weather when it comes up with statements like that. Right now it's 26 degrees Celsius. It feels like 29. It is 79 degrees Fahrenheit. We have 85% humidity, and there's a 3% chance of rain right now. And if we look at the forecast, we see that we will have possible light rain starting again in the evening. We are going to have possible light rain in the evening tomorrow and overnight. And Wednesday, we are going to have rain and humidity throughout the day. But check this out. I wanted to share this headline that I found on the paper. If I can get myself into headline mode. Headline mode. Check this out. This is the Pitillal River from that thunderstorm that we had Saturday night. Look at how high the waters are on the Pitillal River. Why do I bring this up right now? Because this is the river that only weeks ago we were getting all frumpy and ruffled about because the government had come forth to clear up the river in order to let the water go by. At the time, we were very much concerned about the environment, and rightly so. The environment is always an important thing to be concerned about. But I wonder what would have happened if that river had not been cleared off of debris and excessive foliage. And I also wonder if the city would have fared well or better as far as public opinion is concerned if their PR engine had been more explicit as to why they were doing what they were doing, because it would seem to me that the city was right to clear the river when you look at the huge amount of rain that we've been getting. But that's just speculation on my part. Let me not go there excessively. Moving on to headlines, I'm wondering if many of you know who Manuel Lepe was. Manuel Lepe was a very important painter here in artists here in Puerto Vallarta. He is recognized throughout Mexico for developing this naif style that continues to be celebrated in the city. But I also wonder if you know much or not much about his the story behind him. And I made myself a note to bring up Manuel Lepe in a future broadcast. But for the time being, I want to let you know that this beautiful mural that you may not even have seen before is in City Hall, and it is being now given maintenance and restoration by his daughter. And this is very much in need. It was painted between 1981 and 1983, and it's the only mural, public mural left that Manuel Lepe painted. So his daughter is restoring this. If you ever find yourself in City Hall and you wonder about that mural, that's where it came from. If you ever wander into the building across from City Hall where Starbucks is, and you look at a stained glass piece that is right above the building across the street, that is something that is a celebration to Manuel Lepe. And indeed, we will have time to talk about this at some point in the near future. Now, before we dive into the shady side of the martyr children, let me take a look at your comments. Bam, bidim, bam, boom, bam, bam. Nya, nya, nya. Craig loved yesterday's show. Yesterday we talked about Mexican flirtatious double entendre language, which is always a controversial topic because it's fun and colorful, but it must be used sparingly and it must be used without intent to insult or to harass. Let's see. Let's see. Paco, look at my videos of the trail to Cali Eco Park in Playa Grande, says Jaime. Paco responds, Jaime, make it easy on us and send us the URL so that we can find exactly what you're talking about. Mark comments, it would be great if they would clean up the Rio Quale with all the tree trunks and other stuff blocking the flow under the bridges. And I say, you are absolutely right. Thank God there are troops of volunteers doing this, that, and the other to take care of these things. And Mateo comments, there is also a Manuel Lepe Museum on Jacarandas. It is actually the residence of Marcela Lepe, the daughter. And I actually don't know if it is open to the public right now or not. It has functioned as a museum at times, but presently I couldn't tell you for certain if this is something that one can go and visit. Now, since we're reaching the end of the show, we don't want to reach the end of the show without addressing our Mexican history. Oh dear, that is long. I honestly want to share with you my experience with Dr. Oriri. Okay, thank you very much. Is this? Oh my God, I think we're being spammed. Shankar SS. Herpes. That looks like scam. So I'm going to I'm going to delete that and disable that person. So please pay no mind. Anyhow, we're going to continue and we're going to wrap our show today with our visit to this whole business of the Niños Héroes, because I want you to understand exactly what we're dealing with and what this is all about. Let me set it up. This takes me a second. And I have that. And I have this. And I'm almost ready to go. Let me whip out my notes. Yes, please pay no attention to the herpes guy. Herpes guy. Anyhow, there we go. This is the photo of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and he was again at this important site in Mexico City. Niños Héroes is one of two important holidays that we celebrate during the month of September, and this year, because of the days in which these holidays happened. One on Sunday and the other one on Wednesday. Wednesday is Mexican Independence Day. Of course, our idea of having a long weekend was completely sabotaged. Anyhow, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador was in Mexico City doing the honor list of the Niños Héroes that are buried under this important monument. But what is it that went on, and are the Niños Héroes actually buried there or not? This is what we're going to examine today in this shady episode of Mexican history, because they are very popular. They've been featured in our bills, in Mexican bills. I think the Niños Héroes were featured on a 5,000 peso note at some point. They even have their own subway station in Mexico City, in Mexico City subway line number 3. But what really happened is what you probably want to know. Well, there was a battle of Chapultepec at the Chapultepec Castle on September 13, 1847. American forces were attempting to take over the strategic location, which was at the time just outside of Mexico City, which is quite funny to think about when you think about Mexico City and where Chapultepec Castle is located. It's located smack in the middle of the city, but way back then, 1847, it was the suburbs. Anyhow, it was a conflict that dealt with 2,000 U.S. forces versus about 880 Mexican forces. Now, Mexican history wants us to remember this as something that happened such that the castle was defended by six heroic children, and we call them the hero children, six martyrs that defended the castle. And rather than being trapped by the enemy, they plunged themselves off the castle for their own deaths. So they chose to kill themselves rather than be captured. So this is how we were taught what went on when we went to elementary school. In fact, one of the six heroes wrapped himself in the Mexican flag before he plunged himself. Well, not exactly, because the narrative, of course, they try to create this very heroic narrative right after the war because Mexico needed to grapple with the fact that we had a defeat with the US invasion. But the monuments to the boy martyrs were not actually built until Mexico had fought the War of the Reform from 1857 to 69 and expelled the French during the Second Mexican Empire between 1862 and 67. If you don't know what we're talking about, we had an awesome Mexican History 101 just a few days ago, and we can always get back to that. But and now we have this monument. You can look at the castle right behind it, and each one of those columns represents a fallen hero. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's start by looking at the Niños Héroes themselves. Here are their names. If you recognize some of the names as street names, it's because they are used as streets quite frequently. It was Juan de la Barrera, Juan Escutia, Francisco Márquez, Agustín Melgar, Fernando Montes de Oca, and Vicente Suárez. I write Juan Escutia's name in red because Juan Escutia is the one who supposedly wrapped himself in the flag before plunging into the abyss with the rest of his cadet friends. And they were all supposed to be cadets from the heroic military school in Mexico City, or the military college. Now, there is still a very modest site next to the castle in the middle of the woods where people probably sneak around and go cruising late at night, that indicates where the six martyr boys allegedly or apparently fell. But in reality, it wasn't until 1872, 25 years after the battle, that President Benito Juárez signed a decree to honor the Niños Héroes so that their memory would not be forgotten. This happened shortly before his death. So 25 years after the fact, had everything to do with the fact that this legend of the Niños Héroes just grew bigger and bigger. So there is this cenotaph. This is a new word for me. A cenotaph is a monument, I found out this morning, where you honor somebody that died, but their bodies are actually not there. So this original cenotaph was built in 1881. This is 34 years after the battle, and it was designed by Ramon Rodriguez, one of the cadets that was captured during the Chapultepec battle. He was an architect, and he designed this cenotaph. And here's where things get shady, because on March 5th, 1947, this is 100 years after the battle took place, U.S. President Harry S. Truman was visiting Mexico City. And, which I don't know if his visit was coincidental with the 100th anniversary of the battle or not, but Truman was in Mexico City. He visited the cenotaph and placed a wreath and stood there for a few moments in silent reverence. So at the time, American reporters asked him, well, dude, you're here honoring the enemy's fallen. And his response was, brave men don't belong to any one country. I respect bravery wherever I see it. Now, that comment was very nice, and everybody saw it very well, or had a positive reaction to it. But his second comment really rattled the cage for Mexico as a country for many, many years to come. His second comment was, 1 century of resentment goes away with 1 minute of silence. Well, the cadets of the military college were not so in agreement with that, and they went like, huh, took the wreath, mangled it, and begrudgingly left it at the door of the U.S. Embassy. So you see, the relationship between us and the gringos was not so friendly, and it was not that easy for Mexico to accept that. Okay, Mr. Truman, you've had your minute of silence, but that doesn't take away all the shit that went on. So this got really ugly at many levels in Mexican politics. And Miguel Alemán Valdez, who was president at the time, I hope you're not bored because I'm almost to the end of this. Miguel Alemán Valdez, who was president at the time, was the one who decided, well, we have to honor the Niños Héroes appropriately because he was under pressure to do something about this whole situation with Truman. So what he said, what Miguel Alemán said is, okay, we must find their remains, we must identify them, and we must put them in an appropriate monument. Now, just think about this for a second. We are talking 1940s. We are talking about the fact that for sanitary reason, all the fallen in Chapultepec Castle were just buried around the castle. And we're talking about the fact that Mexico had technology in the 1940s to go back and identify remains. Hello? I don't think so. But the government was under a huge amount of pressure from the press and from the public. You must identify these heroes. You must identify their remains. You must bury them wherever they're supposed to go. So what ended up happening is, according to the government, 6 bodies were officially identified as belonging to the 6 hero children of 1847. But a later investigation alleged that the remains found included skeletons, but they only removed some of the smallest bones from the soil. So you see, we don't actually know if the heroes, we don't even know that there are bones under this monument. We don't even know who they belong to. But and this monument itself was not even completed until 1952, which was 5 years after the Truman incident. So you may ask yourselves, whatever happened with the Niños Héroes in reality? Well, here we go. Juan de la Barrera fell. He was 19, so he was no niño. Juan Escutia was 20, and he was chased and shot. Francisco Marquez was 14, and what were soldiers doing killing young kids like that? Don't get me started. He was chased and shot. Agustin Melgar was hiding behind some mattresses. He was 17, he was wounded, and he died days later. Fernando Montes de Oca was 18, and he was chased and shot. Vicente Suarez was 14, and he was shot. And the flag that Juan Escutia allegedly wrapped himself in was actually taken back to the United States as a war trophy, and it was not returned to Mexico until the presidency of Manuel López Portillo in the late 70s. So you see, this whole business of the Niños Héroes is a little shady. What can I tell you? Before we wrap today's broadcast, let me take a quick look at your comments just to see what we have. And being a boom, bum, 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 bum. Oh, you're still laughing at the herpes. Yes, don't worry about that. I suppose we were becoming fabulously famous, and that's why we're going to get spam like that every now and then. It's not the first time. We had somebody that wanted to troll his graphic design skills a little while ago. And yes, Ernesto Gallardo comments quite eloquently that what the president does in these monument, in these ceremonies, is the president names each one of the 6 heroes, and the people that are present respond, they died for the country. Murió por la patria. And yes, they died for the country, but are we celebrating the proper niños, and are we celebrating them accurately? That's a different story. Angelica wants me to tell the story of Maximiliano and Carlota. Oh, the shade of it all. There are You see, that's the beautiful thing about any country's history. You start digging and it becomes fabulously wonderful and fabulously shady. Yes, we will do some research on Maximiliano and Carlota, and we're going to continue to do research about all kinds of wonderful things. Christine likes the history lessons. Wonderful. I love you guys for enjoying this because I'm having a lot of fun researching my own country's history. Um, and it's been a lot of fun. Oh my God, from sweet to sickening. Well, it's history. We have to take it with a certain amount of perspective. Look at what's going on in the world today. I mean, how are our world leaders today, near Mexico and far away from Mexico, going to be remembered in 20, 40, 50 years? Only who knows. Question, Paco, do you know you have a great speaking voice? Thank you very much, Sherry. One tries. It's funny because I listen to other people's broadcast and I listen to the way they speak, and I'm always like, damn, I really wish my voice was that nice sounding. Ultimately, I hope my voice is just a vessel of interesting messages and interesting connections. And that's the bottom line. If the voice is good, yay. But ultimately, what's most important to me is that you're getting something wonderful, useful, inspiring, helpful, or at least amusing out of these broadcasts. With that thought in mind, I think we reached the end of another one. Yay. If you found something helpful, please feel free to become a member. Please feel free to make a contribution to these projects. They are community based, and it is thanks to you that Coffee and Headlines is possible. As always, I thank you for your time. Thank you for your company. I hope you'll have a wonderful Monday. Stay happy, stay calm, stay well fed. Cater to restaurants if you can, cater to local businesses, but keep your own boundaries safe. That's the most important thing. And stay in touch, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.